Hello, happy travelers, good afternoon. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I am Kelly. If you've watched my videos before, welcome back. Today I'm heading out on a 3-day trip, so I'll be gone from home for 2 nights. I think I'm gonna do this a little differently today. I'm gonna start off here and then I will see you in my hotel room tonight because I wanna tell you guys the story of how I became a flight attendant. So I'm gonna get some caffeine for my flight at Starbucks, and then I'll see you in Des Moines because I'm not going anywhere. It's 15 degrees, right? Hey y'all, I just checked into my room in Des Moines and now we're gonna do a murderer check. All right, we're in the bathroom. Oh gosh, oh, that's a nice bathroom. No murderers in the shower. Ooh, the closet always scares me. Let's see. No murderers. How do you turn the lights in this joint? Okay. Okay, no murders. How about this side? Oh my God. It's like, no balcony. I thought there was a balcony. Someone mentioned under the bed before, but usually hotel beds just are solid underneath, so you don't have to worry about that. I'm convinced there's no murderers. So I told you I'm going to tell you the story of how I became a flight attendant, but it's very late tonight and I still have some computer work to do before I go to sleep. So I think I'm going to do that. And you guys can join me in the morning where I will tell you that very captivating story I'm sure you're dying to hear. All right? Good night for tonight, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning, or should I say good evening, I guess? I don't know what time it is. So I'm in Des Moines, and I've had about a 17-hour layover. We're delayed a little bit, so I have a little bit more time than I thought, which is nice. It's always nice when you hear about the delay when you're still in the hotel room, so you don't have to rush to the airport instead of just sitting at the gate or on the plane. But I promised you guys story time. I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of backstory before I get to the whole flight attendant part of this thing, just so you have a little bit of context. So I've been flying for almost 9 years now, which it's crazy that it's been that long. Time flies, like me. Just kidding. So I started flying in 2014. At the beginning of 2013, I was in school. I had been studying journalism at the University of Nevada, Reno, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do after school and what kind of job I wanted to get. And I thought I wanted to get a job where I could travel and see the world. So they always say in the commercials that you can see the world when you join the military. So I said, hey, maybe I'll join the Navy because that's a good way to see the world, right? So I went to see a recruiter in Reno and he told me that no one was really interested in anybody with a journalism degree, but they were looking for women to be on nuclear submarines at the time. And there was going to be a big signing bonus, but I had to be a mechanical engineering major. So I did something really, really crazy and I switched my major from journalism to mechanical engineering. Now I'm pretty good at STEM. There was quite a bit of a learning curve, and even though I'm pretty good, like I said, at math and science and all that, I did struggle. I kind of felt like I was behind for 2 semesters, and I was feeling pretty lost after that because I just didn't feel like mechanical engineering was going to fit me, and if that was the only way they would take me into the Navy, I didn't know if I wanted to do that. So after the spring semester in 2013, I did another crazy thing and I got a job in Alaska for the summer. It was something that I had always wanted to do ever since going on an Alaskan cruise in one of the summers when I was a teenager, and I would talk to the seasonal workers there and they said, yeah, we just, move here for the summer and work, and I always thought that was really cool, so I decided to do it in the summer of 2013. I ended up getting a job at a wilderness lodge just outside of the town of Talkeetna, Alaska, which is about 3 hours north of Anchorage, and it was owned by Princess Cruises. So I actually worked for Princess, but at the lodge there, it was like a hotel. So I worked at one of the restaurants as a restaurant server. So after the semester, I moved to Alaska in May and I worked and played in Alaska for about 4 months. It's actually where I met Kevin, who is my husband now. We both worked at the same restaurant, which people always are impressed when we say we met when we were working in Alaska. We definitely bonded over our shared love of travel and adventure. And during the time I was in Alaska, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do, both after the summer and with the rest of my life. and I was just kind of searching on the internet for travel jobs, and I came across flight attendant openings for the airline that I work for now. And it's crazy because I had always thought you had to speak another language to be a flight attendant, which is why I had never thought of it before. But according to the job posting, you didn't have to speak another language. So on a whim, I just decided to apply, and I actually just kind of did it offhand, and I really actually forgot that I had applied because I was busy working a lot and exploring Alaska, so I had a lot going on. When a couple weeks later, I got an email saying that I got through to the next step. I was absolutely shocked but delighted, where I thought, oh, hey, this could really be a thing. So the next step was sort of a video interview, except it wasn't like we have now with Zoom where you're talking to someone. You had to just record yourself answering some questions that they sent you. I'm trying to remember what the questions were. Your standard interview questions: why would you be good at this job? Why do you want this job? Biggest weaknesses, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So I put on the nicest clothes that I had for up in Alaska, made myself look presentable, and I recorded myself answering these questions. And they must have liked it, because a little while later I got an email saying that I was invited to a one-on-one interview in Dallas at the headquarters, which was so exciting and crazy because they told me they would send me a ticket and fly me down there, and I would be going to the interview. So it was all kind of a whirlwind at first, and they don't put you up in a hotel or anything. They fly you out and then they fly you back in the same day. So you can imagine doing that from Anchorage is a really, really long day. So I told them I would be flying from Anchorage. My brother was actually working up in Alaska with me as well. So we decided to make a trip of it, and we went to Anchorage for a couple of days. That's a very big treat after spending a very long time in the middle of nowhere. You actually get restaurants and stores and stuff, and you can like get a haircut. We made a trip out of it, and then I went to the airport and flew on a red eye to Dallas. And I got into Dallas early in the morning. I want to say like 5 a.m. or something. And I had never been to Dallas before. The interview didn't start until something like 11 a.m. So I thought, I'm going to rent a car and find the best place to have breakfast in Dallas. And it was just kind of a crazy thing to do. I didn't realize how far actual Dallas was from the airport. It's pretty far. But I rented a car and I drove to downtown Dallas, and I had a delicious breakfast. I'm gonna try to figure out where I went to breakfast because it was a really, really good Texas omelet. So when I figure that out, I'll put the name of the restaurant in the description. So I had a really great breakfast, and then I drove back to the airport and went for my one-on-one interview. I guess I shouldn't say one-on-one, I should say in-person interview. The first part of the interview was a group interview. So there's, I guess, an interviewer or a recruiter or whatever, and they have a group of people. There were maybe like 30 people in my group, and then they separated us out, and we had to do like activities and all this crazy stuff to kind of evaluate our personalities and how we would handle certain scenarios. If you guys want me to make a separate video on tips that I have for your flight attendant interview and how to get a job as a flight attendant, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I'll make that video and answer your questions about that. But I thought the group part of it went pretty well, and then they took everyone off and did a one-on-one interview where you actually did talk one-on-one with a recruiter, and they asked you questions, and they actually wanted to see your, in-person reaction. Why do you want to have this job? Blah, 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 stuff like that. I have been told by somebody that if they call you in and they take your fingerprints down on the same day, then you're pretty much in. So once I was done with the one-on-one interview, they called out a bunch of people's names, and mine was included, and they did my fingerprints right there. So I was pretty jazzed. I thought that I was going to be getting the job. That was just something I had heard. So weeks went by before I heard anything. I think they had said you would hear if you got it within like a week or something, and if you didn't hear, you didn't get it. So a week went by, and then 2 weeks went by, and then 3 weeks went by, and I hadn't heard anything. So I was pretty bummed, thinking I didn't get it. But finally, 3 weeks later, they offered me a spot in training to become a flight attendant, and I was just overjoyed. A little couples fact about me and Kevin: he was the only one when I came back from Dallas who asked me actually how the interview went. And that always stuck in my mind, that was really sweet. So good job, Kevin. Something about flight attendant training is you have to be really, really flexible. I guess just with the flight attendant job in general, you have to be really flexible, and man, does that start in the beginning, I'll tell you what. So it said, we'd like to invite you to a flight attendant training at a date to be determined. So it actually worked out really, really well with where I ended up being at in my life. So I had made enough money during the summer to move back home and not have to get a job, because I didn't know when my training was going to be starting. I didn't know if it was going to be in 2 weeks or in a month or in 2 months or whatever. So I didn't want to get a job only to have to quit like almost immediately after I started. I had enough money to tide me over until they actually called me for my training date. It was in September of 2013 when I got the email saying I had training, and that was also the month that I moved back home from Alaska because everything shuts down for the winter. So I spent a couple months taking a couple trips and dating Kevin long distance. He lived in Colorado, I lived in California. So I took a few trips out to Colorado to visit him, and we also traveled to Thailand together for about 10 days, which was a super fun trip and really crazy to take such a big international trip with someone you just started dating. Ask me about the food poisoning story at some other point and I'll tell you that one. So as I said, they told me I had been invited to training and they didn't know when the training date was. But the next step was I was to come in for a medical evaluation. And this was going to be another thing where they flew me to Dallas and they basically did a physical and they did kind of like some weird cognitive tests and stuff. I don't know if they do that stuff anymore, but they did back then. So at this point, I was already back living in LA. So that was a much easier flight. I flew to Dallas from LA. They gave me a physical and like a drug test, stuff like that. And I had to do some like things where I had to put pegs in holes and kind of sensory tests and stuff like that, motor skills. Make sure you can, you know, close the overhead bin, stuff like that. And I guess the medical went well because I never heard anything about it. And eventually they scheduled my training for January of 2014. So I actually ended up starting my training on January 26th, which is my birthday. So I spent my 27th birthday starting training in Dallas. And training was a whole other experience that I will talk about at a different time. It was very, very interesting. So I went to training in January, and at the time training was 9 weeks long, so I would be there until the end of March. It's shorter now because there are less planes to train on, but that was quite a time of change in my life. And yeah, it was a little bit of a wild ride during those 4 to 6 months when I was trying to figure out about being a flight attendant. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and if you have any questions about it or want me to do more videos about tips for becoming a flight attendant or what training was like, let me know in the comments. Hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe because that really helps to support me. I've got to eat my food and get ready to fly to Phoenix right now. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. This is Kelly from The Awkward Flight Attendant. Peace out. Hi-ho, hi-ho. It's off to Starbucks we go. You guys tired of hearing me talk yet? I'm tired of talking. This is Kelly from The Awkward Tourist. Peace out. No, that's the wrong channel.